Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a hypnosis session based on the idea of setting and enforcing boundaries. And the two go hand in hand, because if you have a boundary or a standard that you're not willing to manage or maintain or enforce, it's almost like you don't have that boundary at all. If you imagine a country, for example, having a border, and even if other countries started doing things beyond the border and you never enforce that border, then that's how borders change. And sometimes you see that geographical maps change when a country either can't or won't protect a border. So it's a good metaphor in many ways for your own personal boundaries. And that could be boundaries in relationships. It could be boundaries with people that you work with, whatever it might be. A great metaphor that I found myself using time and time again. There is a scene in the original Jurassic Park movie where the velociraptors are testing the electric fences for weaknesses. And again, that becomes a great metaphor, because it's highly likely that if you have boundaries, they are going to be undesirable or uncomfortable for whoever they impact. And therefore, it's highly likely that they're going to be tested. And parents know this, that if you have boundaries, the children are going to test their limits. There's even a phrase, they're going to test their limits. They're testing your boundaries. And a very helpful phrase that I now have, and I never used to, is the phrase, people don't get what they deserve, they get what they tolerate. And therefore, if you have these boundaries, and when the boundaries are breached, you kind of let it slide again and again, where you're going to get more of whatever that thing is. And I was working with a client that was on the receiving end of either not articulating what their boundaries were or not really having a consequence if those boundaries were crossed. And for them, the metaphor for this session you're about to listen is a kingdom. And a kingdom is kind of like a nation state, but it's also good in the sense that you can have levels of the kingdom. You have the castle in the center of the kingdom, and then you have, and that normally is protected with kind of big walls and a moat and a drawbridge. And then you might have the inner kingdom, which is typically where you might find the villages and those kind of things, if we're thinking medieval history. And then you have the outer kingdom, which is the lands which are technically owned by the kingdom, but there might be agricultural land and just kind of, fields and forests and that kind of stuff. Something that you would know if someone's in that land, but you're not there to kind of check on it all the time. And therefore, because there's three levels of this, you can think of that in terms of prioritizing your boundaries. Not everything has to be a red line. So you can think of your needs as like the fortress, your wants as the inner kingdom, and your likes as the outer kingdom. And therefore, you want to prioritize your boundaries to protect your needs, followed by your wants, followed by your likes. That if your likes aren't met, it's kind of discretionary. If your needs aren't met, it's kind of a big deal. So there's levels to this. It's kind of needs, wants, and likes, but also what you then do if you encounter some kind of violation of a boundary. If they're clearly communicated and there's absolute clarity as to what those boundaries are, you have the option without the obligation of, if someone, let's say, breaches a boundary, you can give them a second chance, depending on what that boundary is. And then you communicate that. If, however, a boundary is broken either maliciously or repeatedly, then there has to be a consequence, because if there isn't a consequence, it's almost like your kingdom has no wall and people are free to roam, whatever happens. And unfortunately, this happens time and time again, that the nicest, kindest people quite often are those that are taken advantage of, not because they deserve to be taken advantage of, it's simply because they can. Because when people ask, they often say yes. And when there's pressure exerted on them, they normally succumb to that pressure. And that's why the kindest, nicest people need the toughest, biggest boundaries. They need it, because otherwise they will be taken advantage of. And this was created for a client in business, and found it difficult to clearly communicate what the expectations were of people working for them and what the consequences would be if they weren't met. And sometimes you could avoid a lot of problems just by clearly communicating expectations and letting people know what the consequences will be in advance should that it ever get to that point. And then you increase the likelihood that it would never get to that point to begin with. So there's a bit going on here. It's clearly more useful if you're in business, but certainly doesn't have to be that way. And if you find this useful, then great. If you're looking for something a bit more bespoke and tailored to you, there will be a link in the show notes to schedule that free consultation call. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in that slow, calm, relaxing feeling of resourceful relaxation. And as you exhale, allow your eyelids to relax. And notice that when they close, if they're not closed already, it just enables you to go into a deeper level of internal focus. Breathe in and breathe out as you focus not just on the sound of my voice, but on the rhythm of your breathing, the weight of your arms and legs, a sense of the temperature in the room, but also notice any remaining tension is melting away. Maybe you could imagine an ice cube or an ice cream melting under the heat of strong sunshine. And just imagine that any stress, worries, or tension are all just melting away now. And as you breathe in and breathe out, make yourself even more comfortable. Find that position where you can deeply relax now. Breathe in through your nose and either exhale through your nose or your mouth as you feel any remaining tension melt away as you continue to breathe deeply and evenly. With each breath, allow yourself to drift deeper into relaxation. Feel the soothing sensation starting at the top of your head, flowing down through your face, your neck, your shoulders, as you let this wave of relaxation continue down your arms, into your hands, and down to the very tips of your fingers. Feel this relaxation moving through your chest, your back, into your abdomen, and down into your hips. Allow the relaxation to flow down your legs, past your knees, into your ankles, and all the way to the tips of your toes. And when you breathe in, notice any remaining tension, and as you exhale, feel it leave your body as you acknowledge how your entire body is feeling more and more relaxed, calm, and at peace. And in this place, your mind is open and receptive. And I wonder if you can use the power of your imagination to imagine a magnificent kingdom. A kingdom with forests and rivers and mountains. This is your kingdom. A vast and beautiful land that represents your life. You are the king here, and every part of this kingdom reflects different facets of who you are. And I wonder if you can imagine a path in the kingdom that leads you deeper into your realm. Notice those lush fields, the vibrant forests, and the serene rivers that flow freely. Feel the sense of pride and ownership over this land. It is yours to govern, to protect, and to cherish. And in the heart of your kingdom stands a grand castle, towering and strong. And imagine that this castle symbolizes your core needs, those red lines that simply cannot be crossed. Its walls are high and impenetrable, designed to protect what is most essential to you. As you approach the castle gates and feel the solid wood beneath your hands as you push the gates open, step inside and recognize that within these walls lie your most sacred values, beliefs, and necessities. This is the sanctuary of your well-being. And if there is any damage to any walls, you can improve them just by willing it to happen. This is a strong, protected, fortress-like castle. And surrounding the castle is the inner kingdom. This represents your wants. These are the desires that enrich your life and bring you joy. As king, you have the discretion to grant access to this area. You may choose to be lenient when appropriate, offering second chances when they are deserved. And visualize yourself interacting with the people in your inner kingdom. These are the people you know, people you work with, people that work for you, suppliers and contractors. These are the people that you interact with on a regular basis. And imagine communicating your boundaries clearly and confidently. No ambiguities, no mixed messages. Communicate your boundaries confidently and clearly, and notice how they respect your authority because you respect yourself. And beyond the inner kingdom lies the wider kingdom, encompassing your likes. This area is vast and open, filled with possibilities and new experiences. Here, you are flexible and open-minded, yet still mindful of your role as protector of the realm. You understand that while the wider kingdom is important, it is the castle, the core of your being, that must remain secure. That if the castle is compromised, the entire kingdom is at risk. Feel a growing sense of empowerment as you realize that all along you have the strength and authority to protect your castle. You are crystal clear on your boundaries, and you communicate them with confidence and clarity. And maybe you can see the words or hear the words. I don't get what I deserve. I get what I tolerate. And allow this belief to sink deep into your subconscious. You recognize that by enforcing your boundaries, you set the standard for how others treat you. When someone approaches the castle walls with respect, you welcome them warmly. But if anyone attempts to breach your red lines, you are ruthlessly decisive in implementing consequences. This is not out of malice, but out of a deep respect for yourself and your kingdom. In your inner and wider kingdoms, you exercise discretion. You understand that mistakes happen, and you are willing to give chances when they are deserved. Your judgments are fair and just, reflecting the wise and compassionate king that you are. By protecting your castle and upholding your boundaries, you ensure the prosperity and happiness of your entire kingdom. The people respect you, the land thrives, and peace prevails. you feel a profound sense of fulfillment and contentment. Those words echo in your subconscious mind. I don't get what I deserve. I get what I tolerate. Embrace the truth and let it empower you to maintain clear standards. If you tolerate it when boundaries are crossed, the boundary loses its power. But when the boundaries are protected, enforced, they become stronger, clearer, leading to more respect, joy, and harmony. I want you to imagine if there was a rival kingdom nearby, that if the enemy was allowed to traipse through clear boundaries of the kingdom without any consequences, it would be perceived as weakness. If the wider kingdom is not protected, the inner kingdom becomes vulnerable. And if the enemy can get close to the inner kingdom, they are within reach of the castle. But sometimes, having firm boundaries of your likes and your wants means you never need to protect your needs. But if the enemy had no malicious intent and just wandered into your kingdom accidentally, that would be the time to give second chances, to communicate that you noticed, to let them know they wandered into your kingdom. It is only merciful if it comes from a place of strength. If you are never willing to enforce boundaries, then they are not boundaries. But it's now time to return from your kingdom, bringing with you the strength and the clarity that you've gained, feeling like a strong, powerful king, willing to be discerning, understanding, to give chances when necessary, but not afraid to give clear consequences when boundaries are deliberately or when boundaries are ignored consistently. Feel the strength of that king returning back to the here and now. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Become aware of your surroundings, your physical body, as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.